Well, it'd be very interesting to hear from our crowd. There's a few questions I've got here. Maybe we'll start off with you, Quinn. As a traditional Hong Konger that you've been here, you've obviously taken a different way, I suppose, to look at how you do business. What made you, or what sparked you into giving away your corporate job at McKinsey and Hewlett-Packard to do a startup such as this?
In fact, actually, I left McKinsey because more of a family issue than actually I didn't like the job or something else. But I did choose to go into startup instead of going into the next job that could have been like very lucrative as well. So I think the experience in consulting gave me a lot of opportunities to try to solve problems for someone else. And I think maybe some of you consultants here, well, ex-consultants maybe, yeah, quite a lot. Then you guys know the feeling of actually feeling like you solved the whole problem for someone else, and then it's like, it's just missing that bit on execution. So that made me really wanted to go back to entrepreneurship. In fact, I started my first business when I was 14. So I started an education center. Basically, I wasn't the best in class, but I have a lot of classmates that were really good at school. So I basically told them, okay, I'm going to set up this space. You go and help me tutor these guys, I'll get a cut. So basically, I sat there, I set up the space, and then they go tutor, and students come to me, and then I didn't do anything, and I got a cut. So that was my first business, 14 years old. And then after that, I tried education, I did something healthcare. I mean, once you're in entrepreneurship, or once you're in the product management role, right, I think it's very hard to leave those roles. The reason is because you create something that has your character in it. It's a bit like an identity. That product, when people say that their own startup is their baby, it actually makes sense in some ways. It's a bit scary that way, but I think it's that feeling that I used to have in creating a product, in adding values to people around me, in a way where I can create a team to achieve some dreams out there, and then in ways that other people have not expected. Creating value that way, I can say it's a bit addictive. So after McKinsey, after my HP job, then I looked at myself, okay, I'm young enough to go take this risk. I know I have this risk-taking capability I want to be a good steward of. So there's an opportunity there. There is a problem that could be solved. I can encourage other fellow, how should I say that, my friends, like who actually, let's say they didn't have the opportunity to study overseas, right? I can encourage them, tell them that this is possible, to create your own company and to make someone else's lives better. I feel like, okay, this is an opportunity and something unique for me that I can do for Hong Kong. So I told myself, okay, 2 years is nothing. I'm just going to go do it. So that's basically how it started.
Thank you. There's a question here for Tony from the Canadian Association, Vancouver. How many students do you have in the Mettā community? How many billionaires? How many in between? And how did you interest University of Waterloo in Mettā? Is there room for the Canadian universities? Lots of questions. How many billionaires? How many in between? And then how did you basically interest the University of Waterloo in Mettā?
All right. I think I know whom this question is coming from. We met 2 days ago, just before I took off. So, billionaires, for a fact I know 2, but we are definitely not asking our members when they join whether they have billions or millions, because the entire idea is to be inclusive, regardless the age, regardless the race, regardless the financial background. All that matters is relevance and commitment to the Hong Kong startup ecosystem in Hong Kong and interest in the global innovation world altogether. Every single member that joins Mettā signs a paper that they are contributing, allocating at least 1 hour of their time to other members in the community. Now, having 800 members, it means 800 hours of billionaires and very smart people overall. Students, I don't have the number, unfortunately, but we keep Saturdays open for education and social inclusion purposes. We've been hosting workshops with the Asian University for Women. We were hosting workshops with the CTU app community to help or teaching families to code together. We've been having a very long list of different social and most importantly inclusion projects. As a consequence, we've engaged a lot of students so far, and just right now working on a student discount that we would be rolling out with the university partners that we have. And by now, most of the Hong Kong universities are our community partners, and we conducted at least one event with them on December the 1st, which is, I believe, tomorrow. We are hosting a program with Singularity University as well, of whom the alumni network will come together at Mettā and will be presenting opportunities for people to join in different ways, most importantly through competitions. Answering the question about the University of Waterloo, I'm an extreme fan of the university. Obviously, it's exposed in terms of innovation and specifically engineering and IoT capabilities, one of the shining stars right now in the world. And I was lucky enough to have the first entrepreneur in residence, which is the name at Mettā for interns, either entrepreneurs in residences we host and work with, or entrepreneurs in training. The difference is that the entrepreneurs in residence are actually startup founders and practicing entrepreneurs that Mettā is enabling to do their business better, and through that process they also create value for the community. Meanwhile, entrepreneurs in training are people who never been entrepreneurs, but through Mettā we are exposing them to all the opportunities that they are interested in, and through that they create value to the community. So my first entrepreneur in residence was from the University of Waterloo, and created an enormous impact within the Mettā community, contributed a lot. He had to go back to finish his last year, and now builds the Mettā community at the University of Waterloo. So it's coincidental, circumstantial, and we are working on a program to engage with more and more universities all over the world. So the University of Toronto, that I had some association with in my life, is definitely next in Canada on the map.
Thank you. Katarina, I've learned that you've actually lived and also worked in the Chinese mainland before. So what actually turned you to come back to Hong Kong? Why not stay in China and establish your business? Why did you come around and come back to Hong Kong? What was the reason?
The main reason is, of course, that I love Hong Kong. But I think it's also because I had a very strong network and of old clients, and also of through the university. So it was a very easy step for me to go back here and work here and set up a company in Hong Kong. And it was also a very, I'm still very close in working in China and producing. We do still produce a lot of things in China. So we never really left China. We chose to pick our business up in Hong Kong.
Okay, thank you. For all of you, one question, one big one. How do you tackle challenges such as business sustainability, in particular with emerging competition these days in the marketplace, and also the capital squeeze out there? So, with startups, with new businesses, it's always going to be a challenge. So how do you manage all that?
From our side is that we have a very diverse service scope. We have the focus of product and packaging design, identity design, and then design research, which means that we can have a very stable. We have a very stable business as we work across different disciplines, and we also work with different markets. We work a lot towards China, a lot towards Europe, Northern Europe, and also the US. So we diversify a bit, and that's, I think, is the key to the success that we have.
Diversification is a very good way of mitigating risk. And on my end, or Metta's end, diversification comes in the different revenue streams that we established. And taking expert networks as a reference point, we are creating value and revenues through engaging the community within the community, or engaging the database as a community, and not only creating value and revenue through engaging or selling that as a service to corporate clients, which is a very one-dimensional way of creating revenue, and more importantly value, because that's something I personally care less about. I do think that there is enough capital out there, and the capital is looking for smart investment opportunities. I do want to believe that what we are creating at Mettā or with Mettā is innovative enough, and I will be very honest with you to say that we are still 6 months in the business. We are still tweaking the business model to actually find that 80-20 equilibrium, and we are exactly spending 80% of our time to find that last bit that will really make the clockwork tick and click. But I do think that the capital squeeze is true for saturated markets and industries and mediocre solutions, but there's an enormous appetite by investors for great opportunities to invest in all over the world.
I think for startups, I think it's two questions: sustainability and staying competitive. Sustainability for startups, if we actually did our homework right, we would have found a blue ocean. So if we found a blue ocean, then the key point of sustainability for us is actually the team. So the way I do it is basically, I can be here talking and then the company won't be slowing down, right? So it's training the team so that each of them runs as an entrepreneurial component themselves. Now I have a team of, I think my core team has around 6 people, and each of them, I have friends who call them Yip Man. If you know what that means, so basically 1 against 100 in what they're doing. They're very how do I say that? Cross-functional people, capable. So the team is very important. With a good team, I feel like the product follows, if we have the right mindset of iteration. And staying competitive, I actually wish there were more competitors in some ways. The reason is because it's always tough to be the first one to explore. I was talking about how you're basically throwing a dart. With need finding, hopefully you throw a dart at the right place where there's a global optimum to be explored. But the thing is, being the first one to keep doing those things actually is very inefficient. So if someone else have managed to explore, let's just say, the marketing aspect of a customized product at $300, right? That will help us a whole lot. We can learn from their success, we can learn from their failures. Even in Facebook, we can probably target their audience. But the thing is, when we're the first one, it's actually quite challenging. And competitions is not necessarily bad, I feel like. And in a market, startups, I welcome other people who executes well. And I mean, it's a huge market. If I look at watch market, it's 40 billion. Fashion watch, 12 billion. Talking about customization, less than 1%, it's already in there. So if I have 3 or 5 other startups who are executing well, or even beyond my expectation, or even better than I am, great. We can all share that market and make the world a better place. And we can learn from each other and innovate. In fact, after we started, we launched our brand and we started going onto press and stuff last year around November, actually October a bit as well. We already have a lot of copycats. we can notice them. And then, but the one thing happy that we noticed is that in the press, people start talking about customization. So that is not limited to watches. More and more startups are looking at customization of different things. Leather goods, for example. And if we are able to inspire and other ecosystems get that, and then they all innovate as well, then the world becomes a better place. So it's good.
So how many watches have you sold?
Good question. So up till the last Indiegogo campaign, our campaign last month was $500,000 US. We sold around 1,500, I think. No, that was 1,500 backers. Some of them got more than one watches, so I'm not sure. But before that, we actually limited ourselves to around 10 watches per day. The reason is because we wanted to slowly test. We wanted to test the ideas fast, but we don't want our branding to go out too fast. So we're reaching out to the early adopter segments. People got it, and then we want to make sure that those customers are happy first. So we're focusing on the quality, not the quantity yet, but slowly we'll be pushing towards the quantity side.
Very good indeed. All right. Well, thank you so much indeed today for taking time out and sharing your experiences and your successes. I wish you very well for the future going ahead. Well, please join me in congratulating these individuals for their presentation. Thank you.